Mga higala may mga higala kumusta na napunta niya ito ang tulumanon panglantaw sa kagabhion. Medyo sayo-sayo takarono kay nga ako ang mga kauban diri sa balay, sayo-sayo nanulod sa ilhang mga kwarto. So atong ipahigayon ng ato ang panglantaw sa kagabhion. Sa dili pa nato sugdan ng atong kukabildo mga igsoon, ato sang i-shout out ang ato ang mga likers sa niagi nato nga mga episode ini ato ang panglantaw sa kagabhion. Atong gi-shout out si Ma'am Mirazul Pinkian Salvalion, ato aning disbursing officer diri sa San Miguel Central Elementary School and Speed Center. Ato ang Pastor Yung Monleon Makigangay Jr., Jimalin Butalib Fuentes Panunsilion, Franco Francine, Ginalyn G. Martinez, Ate Maribel Alico Saison, and Evangeline Tubigon Holbita. Daghang kayong salamat sa inyong pagsunod ug pagtan-aw ni ato ang tulumanon panglantaw sa kagabhion. Sa ato ang live na puntay duhang nga nagtan-aw karon, wala lang mo appear sa atong screen. So nindot ang ato ang discussion karon mga igsuon, ihawa sa tagamay sa politika. Kay namang bukoy nakita ganiha sa Facebook usa ka quote nga gi-post, ingon siya, "Do everything with a good heart and expect nothing in return, and you will never be disappointed." Life has a strange rhythm. Sometimes the very people you help are the ones who hate you. Sometimes the ones you trusted the most are the ones who betray you. Sometimes your purest intentions are the ones most misunderstood. And so I ask you tonight, my dear friends, why do we still do good in a world that often repays kindness with cruelty? Why do we still give when what we receive is often disappointment? This is the paradox of the human heart. And this is the journey of tonight's episode. Good evening mga kahigalaan, mga pinalangga kong tigpaminaw, tigtanaw, and welcome once again to Panglantaw sa Kagabhion. Tonight, we take on a theme both simple and profound. Do everything with a good heart and expect nothing in return, and you will never be disappointed. Kung imong tan-awon, daghan kaayo nato ang mutabang. Muhimo ug maayo nga binuhatan, apan sa luyo ana adunay ginapaabot nga palos. Sometimes that return may be as small as a thank you. Sometimes it is recognition. Sometimes it is future favor. And yet, when these expectations are unmet, we are left with bitterness, pain, and even anger. But what if we change perspective? What if instead of expecting something in return, we choose to live with open hands and a good heart, trusting that God alone sees, knows, and rewards? In Galatians chapter 6 verse 9, Paul tells us, the church, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Notice that Paul never says, you will reap from the person you help. Instead, he points us to God's timing, God's harvest. In other words, do good because it is right, not because it is rewarded. Mao ni ang kalainan sa kalibutan ug sa Ginoo. The world says, give so that you will receive. But God says, give because I first give to you. Love because I first love you. Think of a teacher in a remote barangay school. Every day, she walks long distances just to reach her classroom. She buys chalk and cartolina from her own pocket. She spends her evenings preparation lessons. And yet, sometimes her sacrifices go unnoticed. There are parents who complain. There are students who take her for granted. If she based her joy or recognition, she would give or she would have quit long ago. But many teachers, like countless unsung heroes, continue not because of applause, but because of calling. The reward is not in medals or plaques, but in the silent transformation of young lives. This, my friends, is what it means to do good with a pure heart. Bisan walay bayad, bisan walay pasalamat, bisan walay dungog. Now let us bridge this into law. Under the Civil Code of the Philippines, Article 19 reminds us, every person must, in the exercise of his rights and in the performance of his duties, act with justice, give everyone his due, and observe honesty and good faith. The law does not promise that acting in good faith will always lead to reward, but it commands us to live with integrity regardless. And here's the beauty of it. Society functions well not because everyone is rewarded, but because many choose to act in good faith even when it costs them something. Imagine if all of us only did good when there was a return. Our families, our communities, even our nation would collapse. But because there are men and women who give without expecting, who serve without demanding, who live with a good heart regardless of recognition, society keeps moving forward. Think also of a public servant, maybe a barangay health worker. She works tirelessly, often underpaid, visiting homes, vaccinating children, educating mothers, and yet, during election time, her efforts are rarely remembered. Politicians take the credit. But that health worker who chooses to serve with a good heart embodies the essence of our theme. She may not have her name printed on tarpaulins, but in the eyes of God, her labor is precious. Jesus himself taught this principle in Matthew chapter 6 verse 3 to 4. When you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. What a comforting truth! Our hidden acts of kindness, unnoticed by the world, are fully known in heaven. Mga igsoon, kung adunay tawo nga wala makapasalamat sa imong tabang, ayaw kasuko. Kung adunay tawo nga mibaliwala sa imong sakripisyo, ayaw pagdumot. Kay ang Diyos nakakita sa tanang butang. And when God sees, He does not forget. Let us be honest. Sometimes it hurts the most when betrayal comes from a friend. You helped him financially when he had nothing. But now that he is stable, he no longer remembers you. You were there during his darkest nights. But when you needed help, he was nowhere to be found. If you expect loyalty from men, disappointment will come. But if you anchor your goodness not on men but on God, then even betrayal cannot destroy your joy. This is why the title tonight is so true. Do everything with a good heart and expect nothing in return, and you will never be disappointed. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 tells us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. The danger of expectation is this: when we expect too much and get hurt, our hearts grow bitter, and bitterness poisons the well of life. But when we expect nothing, every small kindness received becomes a blessing, and every rejection becomes an opportunity to trust God more. Think of a farmer. He plants seeds in the soil without guarantee. Sometimes the rains come, sometimes they don't. Sometimes pests attack, but the farmer continues planting because he knows that without sowing, there can be no harvest. Likewise, when we do good, we plant seeds in the soil of life. Some seeds may never be acknowledged. Some may never be repaid. But God sees the soil. God sees the seed. And God brings the harvest. Friends, life is too short to live in bitterness. It is too short to keep score of who owes us, who forgot us, who failed us. If you do good for men, you will always end up disappointed. But if you do good for God, your heart will always remain free. Do good not because people deserve it, but because God has been good to you. Love not because you are loved, but because you are filled with His love. Give not because you will be praised, but because you were once given grace. In the end, the true measure of goodness is not in human applause, but in divine approval. Matthew chapter 25 verse 40 says, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. So tonight, as you rest, remember this truth. Do everything with a good heart. Expect nothing in return. And you will never be disappointed. Because God, who sits in secret, will reward you openly. Kini ang panglantaw sa kagabhion din ng kahayag sa kamatuoran mo danag bisan pa sa kangitngit. Kini inyong higala, igsoon ug alagad, Jeremias Labaho Tubigon. Nagpahinumdom kanatong tanan sa kanunay. Nga sa atong pagpangandoy ug matarong nga katilingban, ang kamatuoran kayo ng atong suga. Ug sa kangitngit sa kasaysayan, ang tinud-anay nga pamunuan, ang labing hayag nga paglaom. Daghang kayong salamat sa inyong pagtanaw ug pagpaminaw. Hinaot sa kanunay ang Diyos magapanalangin ug magapanalangin kanatong tanan. Mayong gabi.